Who is Angela Merkel, Chancellor of Germany? First woman to be elected Chancellor, and the first Chancellor since the fall of the Berlin Wall to have been raised in the former East Germany. Merkel was born Angela Dorothea Kasner in 1954, in Hamburg, West Germany, the daughter of Horst Kasner (1926–2011), née Kaźmierczak, a Lutheran pastor and a native of Berlin, and his wife Herlind (1928–2019), née Jentzsch, born in Danzig, now Gdańsk, Poland, a teacher of English and Latin. She has two younger siblings, Markus Kasner, a physicist, and Irene Kasner, an occupational therapist. In her childhood and youth, Merkel was known among her peers by the nickname Cassie, derived from her last name Kasner. Merkel is of German and Polish descent. Her paternal grandfather, Ludwig Kasner, was a German policeman of Polish ethnicity, who had taken part in Poland's struggle for independence in the early 20th century. He married Merkel's grandmother Margareta, a German from Berlin, and relocated to her hometown where he worked in the police. In 1930, they Germanized the Polish name Kaźmierczak to Kasner. Merkel's maternal grandparents were the Danzig politician Willy Jentzsch, and Gertrude Alma née Drange, a daughter of the city clerk of Elbing, now Elblag, Poland, Emil Drange. Since the mid-1990s, Merkel has publicly mentioned her Polish heritage on several occasions and described herself as a quarter Polish, but her Polish roots became better known as a result of a 2013 biography. Religion played a key role in the Kasner family's migration from West Germany to East Germany. Merkel's paternal grandfather was originally Catholic, but the entire family converted to Lutheranism during the childhood of her father, who later studied Lutheran theology in Heidelberg and Hamburg. In 1954, when Angela was just 3 months old, her father received a pastorate at the church in Quitzow, a quarter of Perlberg in Brandenburg, which was then in East Germany. The family moved to Templin and Merkel grew up in the countryside 90 kilometers north of East Berlin. Merkel and Lothar de Maizière, 1990 and 1968, Merkel joined the Free German Youth (FDJ), the official communist youth movement sponsored by the ruling Marxist-Leninist Socialist Unity Party of Germany. 31, 32, 33. Membership was nominally voluntary, but those who did not join found it difficult to gain admission to higher education. She did not participate in the secular coming-of-age ceremony Jugendweihe, however, which was common in East Germany. Instead, she was confirmed. During this time, she participated in several compulsory courses on Marxism-Leninism with her grades only being regarded as sufficient. Merkel later said that life in the GDR was sometimes almost comfortable in a certain way, because there were some things one simply couldn't influence. Education and scientific career. Merkel was educated at Karl Marx University, Leipzig, where she studied physics from 1973 to 1978. While a student, she participated in the reconstruction of the ruin of the Moritz-Bastei, a project students initiated to create their own club and recreation facility on campus. Such an initiative was unprecedented in the GDR of that period, and initially resisted by the university. However, with backing of the local leadership of the SED party, the project was allowed to proceed. At school she learned to speak Russian fluently, and was awarded prizes for her proficiency in Russian and mathematics. She was the best in her class in mathematics and Russian, and completed her school education with the best possible average Abitur grade 1.0. Near the end of her studies, Merkel sought an assistant professorship at an engineering school. As a condition for getting the job, Merkel was told she would need to agree to report on her colleagues to officers of the Ministry for State Security (Stasi). Merkel declined, using the excuse that she could not keep secrets well enough to be an effective spy. Merkel worked and studied at the Central Institute for Physical Chemistry of the Academy of Sciences in Berlin-Adlershof from 1978 to 1990. At first she and her husband squatted in Mitte. At the Academy of Sciences, she became a member of its FDJ secretariat. According to her former colleagues, she openly propagated Marxism as the secretary for agitation and propaganda. However, Merkel has denied this claim and stated that she was Secretary for Culture, which involved activities like obtaining theater tickets and organizing talks by visiting Soviet authors. She stated, "I can only rely on my memory. If something turns out to be different, I can live with that." After being awarded a doctorate, Dr. Rer. Nat. For her thesis on quantum chemistry in 1986, she worked as a researcher and published several papers. In 1986, she was able to travel freely to West Germany to attend a congress. She also participated in a multi-week language course in Donetsk, in the then Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic. Early political career. The fall of the Berlin Wall in November 1989 served as the catalyst for Merkel's political career. Although she did not participate in the crowd celebrations the night the wall came down, 1 month later Merkel became involved in the growing democracy movement, joining the new party Democratic Awakening. Following the first, and only, multi-party election in East Germany, she became the deputy spokesperson of the new pre-unification caretaker government under Lothar de Maizière. Merkel had impressed de Maizière with her adept dealing with journalists questioning the role of a party leader, Wolfgang Schner, as an informal co-worker with the Homeland Security Services. In April 1990, Democratic Awakening merged with the East German Christian Democratic Union, which in turn merged with its Western counterpart after reunification. In the German federal election of 1990, the first to be held following reunification, Merkel successfully stood for election to the Bundestag in the parliamentary constituency of Stralsund, Nordvorpommern, Rügen in North Mecklenburg-Vorpommern. She has won re-election from this constituency, renamed, with slightly adjusted borders, Vorpommern-Rügen, Vorpommern-Greifswald I in 2003, at the 7 federal elections held since then. Almost immediately following her entry into parliament, Merkel was appointed by Chancellor Helmut Kohl to serve as Minister for Women and Youth in the federal cabinet. In 1994, she was promoted to the position of Minister for the Environment and Nuclear Safety, which gave her greater political visibility and a platform on which to build her personal political career. As one of Kohl's protégés and his youngest cabinet minister, she was frequently referred to by Kohl as mein Mädchen, my girl. Leader of the opposition after the Kohl government was defeated at the 1998 election, Merkel was appointed Secretary-General of the CDU, a key position as the party was no longer part of the federal government. Citation needed. Merkel oversaw a string of CDU election victories in 6 out of 7 state elections in 1999, breaking the long-standing SPD Green hold on the Bundesrat. Following a party funding scandal that compromised many leading figures of the CDU, including Kohl himself and his successor as CDU leader, Wolfgang Schäuble, Merkel criticized her former mentor publicly and advocated a fresh start for the party without him. She was subsequently elected to replace Schäuble, becoming the first female leader of a German party on 10 April 2000. Her election surprised many observers, as her personality offered a contrast to the party she had been elected to lead. Merkel is a centrist Protestant originating from predominantly Protestant northern Germany, while the CDU is a male-dominated, socially conservative party with strongholds in western and southern Germany, and its Bavarian sister party, the CSU, has deep Catholic roots. Merkel with Vladimir Putin, 2002. Following Merkel's election as CDU leader, the CDU was not able to win in subsequent state elections. As early as February 2001, her rival Friedrich Merz had made clear he intended to become Chancellor Gerhard Schröder's main challenger in the 2002 election. Merkel's own ambition to become chancellor was well known, but she lacked the support of most minister-presidents and other grandees within her own party. She was subsequently outmaneuvered politically by CSU leader Edmund Stoiber, to whom she eventually ceded the privilege of challenging Schröder. He went on to squander a large lead in opinion polls to lose the election by a razor-thin margin in an election campaign that was dominated by the Iraq War. While Chancellor Schröder made clear he would not join the war in Iraq, Merkel and the CDU-CSU supported the invasion of Iraq. After Stoiber's defeat in 2002, in addition to her role as CDU leader, Merkel became leader of the opposition in the Bundestag. Friedrich Merz, who had held the post prior to the 2002 election, was eased out to make way for Merkel. Merkel supported a substantial reform agenda for Germany's economic and social system, and was considered more pro-market than her own party, the CDU. She advocated German labor law changes, specifically removing barriers to laying off employees and increasing the allowed number of work hours in a week. She argued that existing laws made the country less competitive, because companies could not easily control labor costs when business is slow. Merkel argued that Germany should phase out nuclear power less quickly than the Schroeder administration had planned. Merkel advocated a strong transatlantic partnership and German-American friendship. In the spring of 2003, defying strong public opposition, Merkel came out in favor of the U.S. invasion of Iraq, describing it as unavoidable and accusing Chancellor Gerhard Schroeder of anti-Americanism. She criticized the government's support for the accession of Turkey to the European Union and favored a privileged partnership instead. In doing so, she reflected public opinion that grew more hostile toward Turkish membership of the European Union. 2005 national election. On 30 May 2005, Merkel won the CDU-CSU nomination as challenger to Chancellor Gerhard Schroeder of the SPD in the 2005 national elections. Her party began the campaign with a 21-point lead over the SPD in national opinion polls, although her personal popularity lagged behind that of the incumbent. However, the CDU-CSU campaign suffered 60 when Merkel, having made economic competence central to the CDU's platform, confused gross and net income twice during a televised debate. She regained some momentum after she announced that she would appoint Paul Kirchhoff, a former judge at the German Constitutional Court and leading fiscal policy expert, as Minister of Finance. Merkel and the CDU lost ground after Kirchhoff proposed the introduction of a flat tax in Germany, again undermining the party's broad appeal on economic affairs and convincing many voters that the CDU's platform of deregulation, citation needed, was designed to benefit only the rich. This was compounded by Merkel's proposal to increase VAT to reduce Germany's deficit and fill the gap in revenue from a flat tax. The SPD were able to increase their support simply by pledging not to introduce flat taxes or increase VAT. Although Merkel's standing recovered after she distanced herself from Kirchhoff's proposals, she remained considerably less popular than Schroeder, and the CDU's lead was down to 9% on the eve of the election. On the eve of the election, Merkel was still favored to win a decisive victory based on opinion polls. On 18 September 2005, Merkel's CDU, CSU and Schroeder's SPD went head-to-head in the national elections, with the CDU, CSU winning 35.2%, CDU 27.8%, CSU 7.5% of the second votes to the SPD's 34.2%. The result was so close, both Schroeder and Merkel claimed victory. Neither the SPD-Green coalition nor the CDU, CSU and its preferred coalition partners, the Free Democratic Party, held enough seats to form a majority in the Bundestag. A grand coalition between the CDU, CSU and SPD faced the challenge that both parties demanded the chancellorship. However, after 3 weeks of negotiations, the two parties reached a deal whereby Merkel would become chancellor and the SPD would hold 8 of the 16 seats in the cabinet. Merkel Chancellor of Germany. On the 22nd of November 2005, Merkel assumed the office of Chancellor of Germany following a stalemate election that resulted in a grand coalition with the SPD. The coalition deal was approved by both parties at party conferences on 14 November 2005. Merkel was elected chancellor by the majority of delegates 397 to 217 in the newly assembled Bundestag on the 22nd of November 2005, but 51 members of the governing coalition voted against her. Reports at the time indicated that the Grand Coalition would pursue a mix of policies, some of which differed from Merkel's political platform as leader of the opposition and candidate for chancellor. The coalition's intent was to cut public spending whilst increasing VAT from 16 to 19%, social insurance contributions and the top rate of income tax. When announcing the coalition agreement, Merkel stated that the main aim of her government would be to reduce unemployment, and that it was this issue on which her government would be judged. Her party was re-elected in 2009 with an increased number of seats, and could form a governing coalition with the FDP. This term was overshadowed by the European debt crisis. Conscription in Germany was abolished and the Bundeswehr became a volunteer military. Unemployment sank below the mark of 3 million unemployed people. In the election of September 2013, the CDU, CSU parties emerged as winners, but formed another grand coalition with the SPD due to the FDP's failure to obtain the minimum of 5% of votes required to enter parliament. In the 2017 election, Merkel led her party to victory for the fourth time. Both CDU, CSU and SPD received a significantly lower proportion of the vote than they did in the 2013 election, and attempted to form a coalition with the FDP and Greens. The collapse of these talks led to stalemate. The German president Frank-Walter Steinmeier subsequently appealed successfully to the SPD to change their hard stance and to agree a third grand coalition with the CDU, CSU. In 2019, media speculation persists that Merkel's successor as party leader, Annegret Kramp-Karrenbauer, may take over Merkel's position as chancellor sooner than planned if the current governing coalition proves unsustainable. The possibility is neither confirmed nor denied by the party. In February 2020, Kramp-Karrenbauer announced that she would resign as party leader of the CDU in the summer, after party members in Thuringia defied her by voting with Alternative for Germany to support a FDP candidate for minister-president. Source: Wikipedia.
Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel by pressing subscribe button. Click alert bell to get notification when we upload new video.